Yep, we are live. We'll just give 1 minute for everyone to join. Yep, I think it's time. Cool. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So, we are very excited to talk on this topic of organizing data for portfolio decision making. We are glad we got this opportunity to talk about it. Yeah, before we dig into deeper into our talk, before that, I just want to take a moment and talk about the mode of communication among us with the audience. So, if I mean, we wanted to have this as an interactive session, but due to the time constraint and also because we have a lot of content to talk about, uh, we have kept a dedicated 10 minutes time at the end where we will take your questions. But if you have any question, you can go ahead and put those questions in the chat for us to see, and then we can either anyone from our team or maybe at the end we'll take those questions. Um, okay, moving ahead. First of all, I would quickly like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Mohit Ahmed. I head the Pharma Digital Solutions at I2E Consulting. I am based out of Toronto, Canada. Um, I have done my bachelor's of engineering, specializing in biotechnology, and then MBA, specializing in healthcare administration. I have worked in around 14 years in IT. Out of that, around 9 years in pharma industry. Um, with me, my colleagues James and Pratik are here. So James Kurian, he is the practice lead of data analytics. He loves data and reporting. He plays with them, and he also loves to work with new technology. He's our innovation guy. Pratik Shinde, he is the practice lead of Planisware. He is our go-to man for anything Planisware. He is also a technology enthusiast. At the same time, he possesses a very calm demeanor, and which makes him favorite among the businesses. And we are jealous of that. James and Pratik, they both are from Mumbai, India. And together as a team, we have, kind of delivered multi-million dollar projects around data analytics and reporting for large pharmaceutical organizations. And when we talk about the team, let's take a moment to quickly talk about I2E Consulting. So we all belong to I2E Consulting. I2E Consulting is an IT service providing organization, especially for pharma, from last 12 years. I2E's core expertise lies in PPM, cloud analytics, and many more. Specifically, Planisware services, the services ranges from integration, implementation, customization, reporting, upgrade, and add-ons. Right. So let's quickly jump onto the topic. I'll move on to the next slide. Yeah. So before we dig deeper into the topic, I just want to quickly throw some numbers. And I usually throw numbers in the beginning of my talk for two major reasons. One is because it sets the tone of the talk. It kinds of gives a pretext of where the talk is going. And second, it kinds of make me look smart and expert. So that's the two more reasons. Let's stick to the first one. um, uh, First of all, we'll just go for these two numbers and then we will try to solve the puzzle. Okay. So first one says 60 to 73% data of an organization are categorized as dark data. And dark data is something which goes to waste. It never gets utilized. We'll come back to that. Second point, 78% of R&D leaders say the pressure to make faster decisions has increased. Uh, so now, so combining these two, we see that we are only utilizing 30 to 40% data, which is available in the organization. Out of that, we have to create and reports and take decision, which is perfect because everybody expects good decisions. And now also fast decision, quick decisions, right? 30%, 40% data utilized. And out of that, we need perfect and quick reports. Life is easy. Cool. Let's go into the next slide and let's talk about some challenges. Okay, it's not going to be easier for next couple of slides again, because we are going to talk about some challenges. So what are the business challenges when we're talking about organizing data for portfolio decision making? So there are many. Out of that, we have selected few which we think are major, which we would like to focus on. First is rapidly evolving drug development business models. So recently, any industry these days is looking at a rapidly evolving business model, um, especially post pandemic. In pharma specifically, we are looking at. I mean, the push for early to market is more than ever. So now the organizations are looking at squeezing that drug development life cycle a bit. I mean, just to be ahead in that early to market model. I mean, this poses a big challenge when we talk about organizing the data for the decision making. Teams spending considerable time on reporting, yeah, that is being a long lasting problem. And if we have project managers in this talk, I think you guys can relate. I know how much time project managers spend just to create reports, on maybe weekly basis, fortnightly basis, monthly basis, going through those long list of project plans and taking data out and milestone data out and resource data out and creating those reports. I know it's really time taking. According to a research, again, I'll give an example of a research which was done by, I think, Wellington Project Management Consulting UK. So they did a research and they found out that they categorized the activities taken by PMOs, and they found out the activity which was on top, which was being done by most of the PMOs and most of the time, that was creating reports. And when they went ahead and tried to find out how much average time they're spending on creating report, they found out it was around 68% of the time. That's a huge number and an astonishing figure. 68% of time the PMOs are spending on creating reports. I mean, yeah. Then we are talking about ever increasing data volume. Definitely, everybody wants data, everybody wants to have more and more data. I mean, just to give an example of clinical trials, the clinical trial data itself is increasing in volume, and now the organizations are pushing for RWD, which is real world data as well. I mean, and the means of getting the real world data is through those wearables, those Fitbit bands, some electronic medical records, and these kind of means they use to get more data out from the organization, out from other sources, and then they combine with clinical trial data, which happens in the controlled scenario. Then they are talking about the results. So the data volume is increasing day by day. Yeah, need for agility and transparency. Yeah, when we are looking at leadership reports and all, they do look for, and the data is increasing, but they want quick reports. The report should be transparent. Again, scrutiny of portfolio decision by leaders are increasing day by day. So these are few of the business challenges, when we talk about aggregating the data for portfolio decision making. Quickly moving on to the next slide. Yeah, again, this is also here also we are going to talk about some challenges, but this time we are going to talk about some system challenges which we come across when we are talking about getting the data. Most common and the biggest challenges we face are disparate systems and disparate data sources. From from business point of view, from business reporting point of view, it sounds a bit easy. Get the data from multiple sources and hook onto a reporting tool, and yeah, have the report. But actually, it is not as simple as it sounds. I'm sure the technical people in this, whoever in the attendees, they might relate to that. Even adding one field to a report can result in huge amount of effort, which might be needed from the back end. So yeah, these are some challenges. Data quality, yeah, definitely. We were listening to the keynote yesterday, and someone was talking about how uh, the data needs to be usable for the reporting purposes. Of course, the data quality, cloud migration, yeah, of course. I mean, even though this can be kind of one time challenge, but still it is going to be a challenge when you migrate to on premise to cloud. Definitely the entire system changes. So even though it will be one time, but there will be some challenges. System performance, yeah, of course, when we're talking about multiple data sources, we are talking about large volume of data, then of course system performance also can pose a big challenge. Real time data exchange, definitely now everybody looks for uh, reports which are real time, but not all the systems are meant for real time data exchange. I mean, some systems are still you know post and get data on batch process, or maybe through nightly jobs. So this also can create poses a lot of challenge when we are talking about getting data for portfolio decision making. Now, so that's enough for the scary slides. Enough for the challenges. Let's talk about some of the solutions. We'll move on to the next slide. Yeah, let's talk about some of the solution. So Planisphere itself provides many means by which you can get the data and use it for the reporting. It can be daily data exports, or it can be OData, the API, or the BI box. uh, Yesterday in the keynote, we heard about BI box. How BI box is kind of a small data warehouse which can be hooked on to Power BI or any other reporting tool to get the reporting out of it. So yeah, I mean, Planister itself is working on creating this process more seamless and having the data available for the reporting. Uh, but every company has its own approach. They go for different kind of approach. Like few organization can go for BI box and utilize that for the reporting and dashboard. Some of the companies, they go and create some staging layer. They call it staging layer. They can call it data processing layer. Somewhere it's called TIPCO virtualization layer. So it can vary from organization to organization, but what it actually does is creates a layer, staging area, where the data from multiple data sources like Planisware or other data sources like finance or HR can come and reside, and from there it can be utilized for creating the dashboards and reports. Yeah, when we are talking about some reports and dashboards, there are some examples of the reports which is shown in this image as well, like control towers kind of reports, interactive dashboards, mobile dashboards, mixed reality dashboards, voice activated devices in for the reporting as well. Um, I'm sure every one of you might be aware mostly of the control tower, interactive dashboard, mobile dashboard. I mean, these are pretty common type of dashboards and reports, and we are going to touch on that as well a little bit in our further slides. But I would like to take a moment here and just talk about a little bit on these mixed reality dashboards and reports, and also the voice activated reporting. This goes a bit unnoticed. It's not being utilized a lot in current times, but it has a lot of potential and it is solving some real world problems. For example, I'll again throw some numbers just to make myself look smart. No, just to make my point clear. Um, so for immersive data, it's like immersive technology. So there was a study done by nature.com, and what they realized is if a user is using immersive technology, their sense of presence increases by 46%. So, in simple words, if we are looking, if a user is looking at a 2D report or a infographic or a tabular report versus someone looking into the report or dashboard using the VR technology or AR or mixed reality technology or any immersive technology, their concentration level can increase by 1.5 times, and that's a significant rise in concentration level. The leadership and whoever is taking decisions, that can come handy. um, Also, just to add to that point, recently in November 2021, just recently, FDA approved a VR system which is being used to treat pain. So now the VR system is being used to treat pain, and that's FDA approved also. So I mean, just you can imagine these things actually make difference. Um, Coming to voice activated reports, I mean, it is also solving real world problems. I mean, I know people use it in at their home for multiple purposes. But apart from that, for example, just give me an example. So there is a problem of medical non-adherence. It is a problem when a user, when a patient is not taking the drugs on its time, or maybe not sticking to the drug regimen on the dosage, all these things. So these are categorized under drug non-adherence, and due to this, the pharma industry is it is costing around $637 billion annually, just because of drug non-adherence. So now the pharma organizations are using this voice-activated devices to help user prompt and help them guide to adhere to their drug regimen. Um, and I mean, now they are going ahead and they are going to utilize facial recognition and even the voice recognition, and apply some artificial intelligence to move even a step further and make it more precise. As far as reporting is concerned, these voice activated devices also, it's very easy for the users. I mean, you don't have to actually go and apply filters on a tabular report and sort it and then export it. And after that, if you have to share with someone, open in your email and then paste it in there and then send it. Instead, voice activated devices, you just set your filters, tell the device to set your filters, get the data, and just tell who you want this to be shared with, and it will send that mail. So it's as easy as that. Mm, I mean, we have created few dashboard using HoloLens, which is like the immersive technology, and also using the voice activated devices in Alexa. And that's pretty fascinating. I mean, when we look at it, it looks amazing, pretty fascinating. Okay. Anyways, moving on. So we just talked about Planisware providing OData, BI box, and all. Moving on, what I will do is I'll hand it over to Prateek. He's going to talk a little bit more on OData, and also he will talk about this entire solution kit. He will talk about the I2's approach, or how I2 goes on with the providing the solution regarding the portfolio decision making. So, yeah, Pratik, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Mohit. So Mohit discussed a wide variety of dashboards in the previous slide. So we saw different types of dashboards. But what actually forms the basis of these dashboards is nothing but the data. And to have that data in the proper format is of utmost importance. And that's where we fine tune or we customize our approach based on the requirements. So we'll talk a bit more about our approach in this particular slide. So what we do when we have a request from a customer, let's say when they want to set up reporting into their environment. So first step is obviously to define the problem that they currently have. Without understanding the problem that the client is facing, it's very difficult to solve the problem. So first we understand the system, the Planisphere system that they currently have, and more importantly we understand the data that is there in the system, because understanding the data and the key metrics is like half the battle won when you're looking for reporting. So once you know that this is the critical data that they're looking for, so you exactly like start visualizing how the dashboards are going to look like in your mind, and the entire process becomes very easy. We also look into what the pain points of the customer are, what expectations that they have when it comes to reporting, what are the key KPIs that they look for when they want to see the dashboard, and basically what decisions they want to make looking at the dashboards. So that is a very important parameter when to understand what comes before reporting. Then we also identify the different data sources where the data exactly is coming from. So is the data only from Planisphere, or is the data coming from any third-party applications, like so either it's from an HR system or a finance system or a separate time card system, whatever. So we identify the different data sources from where the data is coming, and once we have all of this information in our kit, like we just try to like work on the back end. We try to suggest the different solutions that we can proceed with particular to this use case, and based on that we go to our next step as to like suggest what is the appropriate solution. So for the sake of this discussion, we have kept the list of solution to the three most widely used or the most popular, you can say. First is the staging database, like Mohit mentioned previously. It's nothing but the data from the different application, not just Planisphere, but all the external third-party applications is usually exported on a nightly basis to a staging environment, and all we have all the data into the one place, and we simply connect our reporting tools to this staging database, and we can design reports like playing with the data from different organization. We can have dashboards showing data from different data sources, and it becomes very useful and interactive to the users as well. So this is a very robust solution. It has been working since long, and most of the customers usually prefer this option. However, the disadvantage, if I can say, is probably it doesn't provide you the real-time data that is sometimes crucial for some of the business critical reports, like something like you modify into the system in Planisphere and you immediately want it to be reflected into the report. So this approach usually is not suitable in that case. However, but it's like a very time tested approach, and most of the time 90% of the problem is solved by having like this staging environment set up in your uh, organization. The second approach that Planisphere and we are also like suggesting is the BI box approach. So BI box is like similar to the staging environment, except it's all managed by Planisphere. Consider the BI box as a data lake where all the data from Planisphere is stored into a particular cloud environment. And since it is cloud based, you don't have to worry about maintaining the servers, or in case the data increases in the future, you don't have to worry about like increasing the storage or increasing the processing speed of the server. It's highly scalable in that aspect. Also, it gives you the flexibility of specifying which data you want to export to that BI box, and how frequently you want to export the data to the BI box. So there are a lot of customization options when it comes to BI box. And also Planisphere is now working on adding more data sources, not just Planisphere, to the BI box. So going forward, we feel that this would be a very good option to customers, and especially the SaaS customers, I mean, who have migrated to SaaS or who have started with Planisphere SaaS. BI box is a very good option to like get your data prepped up for reporting purposes. The third option that we have is the OData. It's a little technical uh, piece, you can say, so probably we'll cover it separately in the next slide. But once we identify the solution which suits the client, we move on to the next step as to like designing the dashboards. So dashboards, like the data is available, the reports can be developed either in Planisphere Explorer, or you can develop in any of the third-party BI tool based on the approach that you have selected, or the solution that you have selected in the previous step, be it a staging database or BI box or OData, the dashboards are then developed accordingly and customized accordingly to the needs. Uh, Mohit, can you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So here we'll talk a bit more about Planisware OData. So from the analysis that we did, like not many customers are actually aware about OData. But just for everyone to know, Planisware actually supports OData starting from version 6.2 onwards. Though it's not out of the box, you have to purchase separate license for OData. To explain OData in a non-technical way, I would suggest, or I would say it's probably known most widely as the SQL of the web. So like SQL, how we can write queries, you can have the different where condition, you can filter the data, and you immediately get data once you run the query. You can say OData is pretty similar. Only thing is like it is web-based query, you can say. So you design the URL, you design the query in the form of a URL. You just paste that URL into the browser and enter, and then you have the data in front of you in the JSON format. So OData, like SQL, also allows us to like add more data into Planisware. We can update the existing data within Planisware. We can delete it, or we can just read the data, whatever the purpose. OData is like very useful, like similar to SQL. And one advantage, and the major advantage of OData, is it provides a direct link with the data. So like the a BI box or staging environment where data is stored in a particular location and from there it is accessed, OData actually directly connects to the Planisware database, and it gives you the data immediately. So whatever data you, let's say, update into the Planisware, it is immediately available for consumption. Uh, Also, OData is like very easy to use even for non-technical people. You just have to know how to design the URL of the OData. And once you are aware like how the OData URL is designed, you can also have different filter criteria. So you can just pinpoint what exactly the data you want to fetch or update or delete. And you also don't need any third-party applications for designing the OData like you do for coding or any other web services development. So you just need a web browser, and you can just try out the URLs, different URLs in the OData, and you can immediately get the result. Like I said, it gets immediately the result is fetched in JSON. Also, the advantage over here is like since you don't have to focus on the coding aspect of getting the data, you just have to get to focus on the business logic, like what data you want and what do you want to do with the data. So like I said, like OData returns data in a JSON format. So it's we highly recommend that we don't provide the data directly in the JSON to the reporting tools. What we do and what we suggest and what we develop is kind of like a middleware application that sits between Planisware and the reporting tools that we have. So the middleware application does all the processing. It like gives out the OData URL. It fetches the data from the ORL from the OData URL, and it does the JSON processing. And this middleware application also gives us an opportunity to use ETL. So the data written from OData might not always be like the most readable. For example, if you look at dates in the OData response, they're not exactly in the readable format. They are like explicitly mentioned in milliseconds or something. So we have to convert those milliseconds into the actual readable date. So this is where the ETL tools comes into picture. So whatever OData that we receive from the JSON, we just process the data and make it ready for the reporting tool to be used. So and everything, all of this happens in real time. There is no waiting or 1 hour or 2 hour or a day delay in like doing all of this. Everything, as soon as we receive the response from the OData, the ETL tool comes into picture. It does all the processing. If you're not interested in having a, let's say, a third party or a separate ETL tool, we usually combine the ETL functionalities into our middleware application logic itself. So it's like very efficient and very fast. And all of this data, once we have prepared the data into this middleware application, we provide it to the reporting tool for reporting. So reporting, like it also becomes easier with the transform data. There is not much processing or transformation of the data to be done on the reporting tool. Everything is handled into the middleware system. Uh, so yeah, now that we have seen what our approach is when we have customers coming up with this requirement, and what and now that we have learned a little bit about OData as well, so what we have done is we have also created some sample, not sample, actually, these are all like working solutions that we have created for reporting purposes. And we will see all these solutions, and James will explain all of these solutions into the next slide. So over to you, James.
Thanks, Pratik. I hope I am audible. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of us have spent a lot of time in Excel. Uh, Most of us, some of us actually practically live in Excel. So when we need to take data from other sources, we actually go to the particular application and then we export it into Excel. And then once the data is in, we then go and start manipulating, applying VLOOKUPs and other functions. And I'm sure some of us have also faced this scenario wherein you've gone to Planisphere, exported the data, only to find out that you've not applied the right filters or you've not selected the right project. And then you have to go back into Planisphere, export the data, and follow this process till you get it right. Well, we have a solution for that, and it's called the Planisphere Data Extractor. So using Planisphere Data Extractor, you can actually fetch Planisphere data into Excel without actually leaving Excel. So using simple filters like project type, business project status, and some of the other filters, you could narrow down to the projects that you want. And with one click of a button, you could just get the activity data populated into your spreadsheets. And then you can continue working on it just as you would if you were, just as if you had exported it. So this saves a lot of time. You don't need to go back and forth. This also has a lot of use cases. You can figure out, apply your functions, import it into existing spreadsheets, keep your formula, and generate charts and a couple of other things. So it saves a lot of time, and our customers are actually happy with this tool. So this is one of the important use cases that we have, an Excel-based portfolio tool. In this slide, we talk about another case wherein Excel is good. You can do a couple of things, but at times you might need some more functionality. You might need automation uh, to automate manual processes. So these tedious processes, they can take days, hours, and you might want to introduce automation to make sure you're not spending as much time. And then we have a solution for that as well. So one of our customers had this use case wherein they were generating this PowerPoint reports and they were generating Gantt charts, and they were doing it manually by going to Planisware, exporting into Excel, and then feeding the data in the right format for the template for these tools. And it was extremely time consuming. So they looked to us for a solution, and since we had OData, we were able to build a solution around that. So we created this web app along with robotic automation. Using the web app, you would be able to filter your projects. You would apply various filters, versions, uh, various other filters that you might want to use, narrow down to the projects that you want. You can even apply access controls over there, and then with just one click of a button, you could export the Excel in the format that you want, as well as with the other click, uh, you would get an email which contained an attachment, and that would have the result, the exported Gantt chart, which you would have spent hours on generating if you didn't have this. So our clients, our customers actually benefited from this. Things which took hours now, with two clicks of a two button clicks, we were able to get the report delivered right to their email address. And this actually helped with collaboration as well, since they were emailing each other for collaborating and improving these things. So that helped a lot here as well. So there are many other use cases wherein uh, manual processes can be automated. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. This is another solution that we made for one of our customers. So compliance is very important, particularly in a pharma organization. You can do all the demand planning and resource forecasting, but in case your data itself is not correct, then it will cause issues. So you need to have a mechanism that identifies those issues and brings it up in the foreground, rather than you having to dig deeper into data from multiple systems and then trying to find out. It's better to have something up in front and have those metrics in place so that you identify where exactly in the process uh, the issues are, so that you can be compliant, and it's easier for regulatory aspects as well. So our customer came to us with this problem. They were going to Planisware and they were going to this other systems, the roster system, the timesheet system, and other systems as well. And they were extracting it separately and doing manual operations over there. So we built the reporting, the staging area for the reports, which combine data from Planisware and other sources. Planisware doesn't necessarily have to be used in isolation. We can combine data from other sources as well. And this is what makes the solution even more powerful. So by creating the staging area, we could now use it for downstream reporting. So we created certain dashboards, and it opened up possibilities for using it in other places as well. And our customer was able to identify issues. It could be related to systems, some systems not being configured correctly, or it could be you know human error in filling timesheets and other aspects. So that helped them tremendously with forecasting and demand planning, and helped get some of their processes back on track. So this is one of the good use cases of OData, because data is life. Now, in the other slides, we talk about some of the sample dashboards that we've created. Uh, So you can see the portfolio data. Once you get the portfolio data from Planisware, you can do things like resource planning, and you can look at things across therapeutic areas, across milestones, across the FTEs. You could do your actuals versus forecast. This is pretty important. The gap analysis, where you want to visualize your forecasted data, you want to visualize the actuals so that you're on track. So we can build solutions around that that help you with these. This slide talks about milestones. Milestones are very important. You need to keep track of the milestones that are going to come in the near future, as well as overall project milestones, because they are important. So if you want to opt in for notifications as well, we can do that. If milestone is close by, we can give you notifications, and all this is possible using OData. Next slide, please. And finally, we want to talk about another increasing use case. Uh, so looking at your data in dashboards reactively is fine. That's good. But with the changing landscape, you might want to take a look at your data proactively as well. So that is very important. And there are certain use cases wherein, if you miss something, if you don't get data on time, then it can be harmful. So this is a use case wherein we can build a control tower style dashboard. What this allows you to do is you can have multi-level drill downs. You can look at your data at a portfolio level, at a project level, and you can narrow down to different aspects, different slices, across the costing, the demand, and other aspects. And this is highly performant and gives you sub-second response time. So you can narrow down to any part of the data within this milliseconds. This is very important. And with OData, you can get real-time data as well. So, and it's not limited to web. You don't need to have your laptop in front of you. We could build this for mobile. And as Mohit previously mentioned, for Alexa and other technologies. For example, you could just talk to your Echo device. You could say, "Hey Alexa, give me a briefing of all the projects," and it would reply to you with the data that you want at the right time. And that we feel is very important. So that's it on the use cases that we have. Now we are open to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratik. Thanks, James. So yeah, with that we wrap up our talk today, where we talked about summarize. To summarize, we talked about the challenge, then we talked about the solution approach. We talked about I2E's approach to solve the problem, and then we looked at few of the solutions, use cases which we have built recently or in recent past, and also some of the some of the possibilities which are there and where things can improve drastically. I don't see any question. I don't know if the questions are coming. Cameron, is the chat section open?
I mean, if you
Okay.
don't have any questions now, or if you have any technical, if you want to know technically a bit more about OData, you can probably reach out to us. We are also there in the event today. You can reach our booth and talk to Shri and Sudhir if you have any
Yeah.
further questions.
Yep. Cool. I think we have still have some minutes. If you have any question or anything to discuss, feel free. Okay. So if you don't have any question or anything to discuss from the audience, we can end our session here. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks again to James and Pratik. Thanks to Cameron, and it was nice presenting this in front of you guys. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot,
everyone for
everyone.
attending.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.